Greetings, Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to this week's Richard's Rock Rambles. So we're going to continue looking at our lesser-known live albums, and this week's is no exception. Although this band are pretty well known, but this particular live album, I don't think that got that much traction in the press, and perhaps not that well known. I'm talking about the Dutch band Focus. Yes, the Hocus Pocus group. But we'll get to that track in a second. So this live album came out after their second album, which was called Focus 2, or as it was otherwise known, it came out also as Moving Waves. So that's the album there. Those are the guys at the bottom. And I can tell you who's in the band. Thijs van Leer on organ, harmonium, mellotron, soprano, and alto flute and piano. Quite a versatile guy. Jan Akkerman on solo, acoustic and bass guitar. Cyril Havermans on bass guitar. Pierre van der Linden on drums. And Thijs van Leer and Cyril Havermans did voices. So this was the second album. And the live album that we're going to chat about features a lot of tracks from here. And this came out in 1971. So, the live album we're going to chat about is called At the Rainbow, or as it was otherwise known, Focus Live at the Rainbow. And that's the album cover. This is an original album cover, and I got this from a very good friend of mine, Derek West. Very kindly gave me this album, and I'm really chuffed about that, because this opens up. This is an original import cover. How's that? That's a thing of beauty right there. So that's pretty much the Rainbow in the London as it was then. It was a venue for many bands. Great concert venue. I think now it's a church or something. It's run by some church group. But yeah, that's what it was back in the day. And I don't know if you can see this very well, but that's Thijs van Leer there on the flute. And that's Jan Akkerman on the guitar. And then on the other side, I'm just going to get their names because I think they changed from the... Bert Rater was on vocals, bass and guitar, so he wasn't on that album that I showed you just now. And Pierre van der Linden was still there on drums. And that's those two guys there. You can see the drummer there on the left, and there's the bassist. So those are the four guys in the band. And in fact, when I got this album, I think I listened to it about twice, and I haven't listened to it for many years. Not years, but for a long time. So last night I put it on just in preparation for today's video, and it just blew me away. The musicianship of this band sets them apart. They were one of those bands that was so hard to put into a particular category. Yes, there were bits of, the progressive rock group. There's also a lot of jazz, so you'll get bits of Mahavishnu Orchestra or even Return to Forever. And yet still Focus had very much their own sound, and I think a lot of that was down to Thijs van Leer, the guy on the keyboards. And he's credited on the album as a vocalist. Now, he's not a vocalist in the strictest sense of the word. He doesn't really use words when he sings. It's more like scat singing that you find in jazz. And all sorts of weird sounds. He had this incredible range from quite low to extremely high. And I'll get to the tracks in a minute just to tell you a bit more about that. But yeah, very talented guy, as is the whole band. Tight as anything. Excuse me, I just want to have a drink of water here. All this talk. Yeah, super tight band. I'm just trying to compare them to other bands. If you can think of a Frank Zappa, I mean, his music was very much of its own. Gentle Giant, another English prog rock band, very much of its own. Van der Graaf Generator, very much like that. Sorry, for Focus, but just in a different way. More in the sort of jazz progressive rock field, the merging of those two styles. So let's go through the tracks here. Every one here is a standout track. And I must say, for a live album, this is a really good recording. This is on the Polydor label. So side one opens with Focus 3. So, in fact, this was actually after their third album. Yes, that's right. 1973, it would have been after their third. So, Focus 3, which is a great track with there's some really nice Hammond organ work here from Thijs van Leer, and excellent guitar work from Jan Akkerman. It sort of builds up, and then there's these manic parts to it. That's the word I use a lot for their music. It's quite manic in parts. It's exciting. You don't know which direction it's going to go into. Then there's answers, questions and answers. That's the second track, also brilliant. Some of these are quite long. So on the first side, you've only got 3 tracks. And then it finishes with Focus 2. That was from their second album. Brilliant stuff. If you haven't come across this band yet, this is a pretty good place to start, I think. Side 2 opens with probably the best track on the whole album. That being Eruption, not the Van Halen Eruption. And it's a musical which was an idea of Thijs van Leer. He's kind of the main songwriter within the band. And it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 6 different parts to it. So very proggy in that aspect, but also very jazzy. If you enjoy jazz rock fusion, this album might be for you. Then we get to the tour de force of the album, the well-known track that's most people know of this band, Hocus Pocus. You know, the one that starts off with that yodeling of Thijs van Leer, which is quite bizarre. I mean, it must be one of the more bizarre hit tracks out there that have ever been released. But it works. It showcases the band in all their musicianship, from his keyboard work to his vocal styling, which, like I said, is not really singing. It's more scat singing with sort of using these high-pitched vocals. And this song, this is probably the fastest version of this track you'll ever hear. It's way faster than the original studio version, which came on Focus 2. And they just power through this track. And then it stops and starts and stops. It's great. It's really amazing. Then there's a slightly slower track called Sylvia. And then they go back to Hocus Pocus for Hocus Pocus Reprise or Reprise. And that track, Hocus Pocus, was written by Thijs van Leer and Jan Akkerman. Most of this stuff is written by those two guys. They were the two main guys. So he's there. Thijs van Leer's there on vocal, organ and flute. Jan Akkerman on guitar. Bert Reiter, vocals, bass guitar. And Pierre van der Linden, like I said, on drums. Yeah, I must say, this, after not having heard it for, that's the cool thing about music as well. Especially if you have a fairly large collection, you know, some albums you forget about, you haven't listened to for years. And then because of what I was going to do today, I thought I have to listen to this. It's been such a long time. And I put it on, and I tell you what, it's made me a fan all over again for Focus and their music. So I still need to get quite a few albums of theirs. In fact, I only have these 2 on vinyl. I don't have anything on CD or any other formats. I think I used to have the one called the Hamburger Concerto, which is also really good. And then I might have another one on my hard drive. But physically, I still need to get a lot more of these Focus albums because they're really worth it. Like I said, My Vision Orchestra, bits of Yes, trying to think who else. Maybe bits of King Crimson. But leaning more, like I said, towards jazz. Focus, Live at the Rainbow. Brilliant album. That's it, guys. I'll catch you again soon. Have a great week. Look after yourselves. And yeah, stay safe. Cheers.